Hello people of YouTube, my name is Brad. This is my channel Animate Orange, where I build and review a lot of 3D metal models, and today we are going to build the red Millennium Falcon. There's a lot of different things I could call this Falcon. Basically, well, red. Why is it red? I'm guessing because it's a Target exclusive. This is the Falcon from the Solo movie. You can easily tell by the lack of gap up front. This was released some time back as a red card exclusive bundled with the release of the Star Wars Solo Star Wars movie. It was originally a pre-release. You had to pre-order it, and I did. I got the red card just for that purpose. I want to say shortly before the movie was actually released, they decided to start selling the model separately, but I could be wrong, definitely afterwards. But I want to say that right before they started selling it separately so that you could just order the model by itself. But I could be mistaken. I got it with the movie. It's been sitting in the back burner for quite a while. I've been wanting to build it. Other things have come up, and I'm not putting it off anymore. So here we go. Let's open this up. It is fairly neat little metal earth model. Comes in fairly standard packaging. 2 sheets and instructions. Let's take this over to the table, open it up, see what's inside, and let's put it together. Alright, the Millennium Falcon. Time to revisit the little metal earth Falcon. I've probably made more Millennium Falcons than anything building these metal earth models. I've made numerous different Millennium Falcons, but this one is going to be very much the same probably, but a little bit different. And inside we have 2 very red sheets, and we have 2 pieces of paper for the instructions. And I'll go over the instructions somewhat quickly. If you've not done a metal earth model before, honestly recommend starting with something a little easier, getting an idea of how to work with the metal before you start with this one. But if you're feeling up to the challenge, here's how it goes. We open up the first sheet of paper, the one that has the line drawing of the model and the logos on it. We've got page 1 here. It's not really numbered, but it comes before page 2. You've got a 360 view. You can scan this QR code with your phone or tablet perhaps, or just go to this web address. You can see a completed model for reference. You've got a sample part here, the notation on insertion tabs, insertion holes, and fold lines. Tabs go into holes, and fold lines are just pre-scored areas where parts fold. You've got your legend. E usually points at the engraved side. Usually that's, well, it always points at the engraved side, it's supposed to. And usually that's detail engraving, although sometimes it's referring to a engraving like fold lines and such. NE means non-engraved, it's pretty much blank area or part. Attention points, usually pointing out how something aligns, how 2 pieces come together, and make sure they align this way or this tab sticks out this way. Sometimes there's notation with it, oftentimes not. Put a circle when you see that in the assembly flowchart. It means to insert a tab, fold it over 90 degrees, green triangle, insert the tab, twist it 90 degrees. And then some assembly tips about lightly twisting some tabs to get a part together and then fold it over later. I do that sometimes if it's a shaky area and it's too much to fold it. You can lightly twist it, assemble more of the model, and then come back and fold it over later. A little bit about tools. We'll talk more about tools here in just a second. And then below that we have the drawing of the 2 metal sheets. I'll grab one of them for reference. I've grabbed this sheet here. And if you'll notice, the part numbers are all surrounding this sheet, pointing at the different parts. You'll notice also that many of the parts are not colored in, but some are. The ones that are colored in the same color are the same part, because we live in a mostly symmetrical world where parts are duplicated on different sides. So these 2 are the same part, these 2 purple pieces are the same part, or bluish pieces. I have trouble telling blues and purples sometimes. I like that they do that. It makes it easier to find some of the duplicate parts. And then moving over to page 2, we have the start of the assembly flowchart, starting with part 1, which you'll find on sheet B, and of course the sheets over here labeled A and B. And you just fold it or curve it as is indicated in the red areas, and then these tabs go in these 2 slots and angles over, and then you curve the outside, and that tab goes in that slot, and you should end up with something like that. And that's the gist of it. You just follow along, finding the parts, folding them, and shaping them as indicated, and plugging them together, and you slowly build your model. Of course, you get to the bottom of 2, flip over to page 3, and then page 4. Beyond that, we open up the next piece of paper to the inside, to page 5 and 6, and then flip over for 7 and 8. And of course, when you get to the bottom of the page, you are finished with your model. Let's talk a little bit about tools. The very basics of what you're going to need is a pair of tweezers and some clippers. The tweezers, you can do a lot of bending, shaping, twisting of tabs, folding of things over. The clippers are going to help you get the pieces out of the sheets cleanly and easily by clipping them out instead of trying to bend them out, which can cause damage. I've also supplemented my set with some precision tweezers. I have a couple of pointed ones here. One, I ground the tip down just a little bit to give it a more sturdy tip for tabs and twisting things, and then I have a precision flat set, and between all of these I can do a lot of bending and shaping and twisting. I also strongly recommend some sort of pliers to complement your set. I have some flat nose here that have definite uses. I have some long needle nose pliers for some of the longer pieces, and then I have some curved tips for grabbing things at an angle and bending them over. For shaping round shapes, you'll find that I frequently use tools like this. These are 3D printed tools that I designed and printed for making round shapes and cone shapes. But you can use things around the house like pens, pencils, maybe large sewing or crafting needles. You can pick up some dowel rods at a craft store or hardware store, or an inexpensive drill bit set from the discount bin, and use the flat ends to do your shaping. And with the dowel rod, you can sharpen one end with a pencil sharpener, and that will give you some cone shaping as well. I have a sculpting set here that I occasionally use, and they have all kinds of different shaped ends on them. Some flat, some angled, some spoon. There's a couple of hooks. They're useful for reaching in and bending and pushing and pulling tabs and shaping parts from the inside. We talked a little bit about tools. I've got basic pliers, tweezers, and cutters at the ready. Got our 2 metal sheets, bright and red and ready to go. Let's put this together. I've built the Millennium Falcon several times by this point, but I always have trouble with the neck and cockpit part. I had hopes, with some more experience and a 3D printed taper, I could make easy work of this part this time. Shaping this part started off smooth, but then didn't go as planned. I fought with it a bit, but in the end it worked out. The taper did help out, but more adjustments were needed. Something different between this Falcon and the original Metal Earth Falcon is that there are tabs here to hold this neck or bend in place. The tabs are tricky to get into place, but it is possible.
The first time I built the Millennium Falcon, I tried to bend the sides of these pieces at 90 degrees. Fortunately, I know better now and bent them just enough to match the angles of the rear bent down piece. Then, I bend the tabs a little more so that they are pointing straight down. When coming from a connection from one side that doesn't work, try coming at it from the other. Large cone shaping combo tool made pretty quick work of shaping the dish. I had some difficulty getting the center tab in the back of its trim piece. I had to stop and open the hole up a little bit. I'm not sure if the other part was partially blocking that hole or if the hole was just not big enough, which rarely happens with Metal Earth models, but I have seen it once or twice before. I almost forgot to fold the perimeter tabs down before trying to connect the two upper half pieces. Don't fold down those two tabs on the raised side pieces. Those tabs connect to something else later on. I started at the front of the Falcon and worked my way around to the back, lining up one tab at a time, then sort of going back around and securing them after I got them lined up, or at least enough lined up to start securing. Be sure that when you get to the rear that you use the inner of the two slots and not the outer. I'm just a little bit sad to see that they have included the landing pads on this model. They are tiny and a little difficult to work with, and in my opinion don't really add much to the model. While we're not building this for video and for demonstration, I'd probably just leave them off. It helps to bend one of the two tabs on the square piece that holds the landing foot inwards slightly to help the tabs line up with the slots. I didn't even try to fold the tabs over for a clean look. They are so small and the part is so weak, I could possibly do more damage than good. It's time to add on more landing pads, 6 more to be exact. I'm not going to show how to shape every piece, but it's just a box shape with one piece set on top. This edge of this part needs some extra support from the inside to bend the tab over, or else it will warp. I should have folded up that side before the one next to it, as I ended up having to redo that next part. Started with a difficult tab on this side. I found it useful to bend one of the two tabs inward before trying to attach the pads, and started attaching the pads at the unbent tab first, and that way when you lay the other slot over the tab, it usually lines up and falls right into place. I also found it helpful to pinch the inside tabs in a little to add some rigidity. Be sure to fold the tabs on these little inside detail pieces inward so that the detail shows through the holes. Again, I started at the front and worked my way to the back attaching tabs. I decided to lightly twist these tabs for now to hold them on since they are pretty much in a straight line. Bending them over would make them prone to just basically tilting and falling out. Later, when I attach the other side, I will fold them over for a cleaner look. And now the joining of the two halves. Don't forget to bend over the previously twisted tabs. With every Millennium Falcon that I've built thus far, I found that I needed to point these tabs straight out to the sides, if not a little more than straight out. I've found that it's also useful to grab the inside of that angled raised piece and stretch it open a little bit more to make sure everything lines up. Otherwise, it's just too tight a fit. After I put the last two assemblies on, I noticed that a couple of the inner side pieces were pushed out of place. The only good way to address that problem is to take off those last two side assemblies, straighten the pieces out, and then put them back on more carefully. the moment the kid in me came out. And now to build the base, which is not directly attached to the model, but instead sort of a cradle for it to sit in.